So we're here for harvest. No, we're not. We're here for Deborah. We're here to say thank you in so many ways. I'm a newcomer. I've only been here a few years. And the first time I met Deborah, we talked about how I should come to church and how I should introduce myself to you lot. And she said, come to midnight mass. Just see what happens. Come to midnight mass. And I came, and I sat about there at the back, quietly, out of the way. And you spoke to me, and you spoke to me, and you two spoke to me, and you spoke to me, and you spoke to me. People welcomed me. First time you'd ever seen me. You didn't know who I was. I turned up. That's the church you have. That's what Deborah means to this place. And that's why we love her. She's been here 15 years. 15 years of service. She's seen you grow up. She's seen me wear a frock. She's seen us all do daft things for charity. Raising money, eating cakes, and doing all sorts of other things. So she's overseen initiatives like the furniture store, the food bank, things like that started here. But much more than that, what really means the most, I think, to me, is that Deborah is the presence of God in our community. I bang on about this is where God is. And that's exactly where Deborah has been the whole time I've known her, the whole time she has been here. She is the presence of God in community. So we've had many meetings. We've been in church. We've had bringing shares. I've sat in your garden. I've sat in the study. You've sat in my house. You've met with people throughout the community, and you've become part of people's lives. Most importantly, you've been a hand to hold when I needed it. And a clip on the ear when I needed that too, but that's another thing. The thing for me is that, Deborah, you very quickly moved from being my vicar, from being a teacher and a mentor, to being a friend, being my biggest ally and advocate. And I'd like to thank you for that. And just quickly, this is farewell. This is not goodbye. There isn't anybody in here that is saying goodbye to you today. You're moving on to somewhere new, to a wonderful new family and a wonderful new place that will come. But we'll keep annoying you. We'll keep popping up. Yeah. And finally, just before I hand over to Bryce, this is Team Deborah. This is Deborah's seat. This is Deborah's place. She's very much part of our community. But David was the second person to talk to me here. David stands behind Deborah all the way. He's always supported her. He's always been there. And when I've needed an ear that I felt I couldn't go to Deborah, I've been able to go to David. And I'd like to thank him for that too, because we are losing Deborah, but we're also losing David. So thank you both. Thank you for the time that you've given me, the time that you've given St. Mark's, and the love and the grace that you've given to Bolden. Thank you.
May God convince you that life is good. May God assure you that love, his love, is the lasting reality. And may God give you peace now and forever. Amen.
The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades. I urge you, at this moment of national emergency, to stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives.
Good morning and thank you for joining us at St Mark's Bolden. Let us welcome Christ in one another.
The day before lockdown, we streamed our first service. We didn't know what we were doing, what direction we should be taking, but you joined on your tablets, your laptops, your phones, and together we worshipped God in our homes.
In recent months, I have enjoyed Deborah's online services, and so her comfort and wise words have continued to sustain me through the coronavirus.
It was so beneficial to me. I really needed that to keep me going.
Change isn't new to our little St. Mark's, but thanks to Deborah's devotion, we remain Bordon's spiritual heart.
Having lived with you at home, I've seen the time, the love and the pride that you've given St. Mark's and the congregation, and I know that that's been reciprocated.
There have been our Acorn Prayer workshops, ECC Retreat Day,
the harvest suppers, the lunches, the quizzes, the agape meals, coffee mornings,
all of which will remain as fond memories for us.
Deborah had this incredible ability to find gifts and talents in a person that they didn't think existed. Through her, my attitude to life has changed, and I'll never forget her.
Also, I remember when Deborah, before my father's funeral, it was a very special occasion. Thank you.
Yeah, she was brilliant, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Somehow she has managed to touch on something that is current in my life, and it has helped me appreciate or heal, depending on the circumstances.
She's taught me to have a much broader perspective. Her love and her care too has come through in a big way.
And I'd like to thank you also for your kindness and care. It will be strange in church without you, and you will be missed so much.
We've been on quite a journey. We sort of bonded over our journalism background, our sense of humour. I met your son, and now we're related, which means that actually we don't ever have to say goodbye. And we also have this little person here as well to thank you for too.
Thank you so much for Ruth and Alex's wedding service. It was so lovely to have someone who knows us as a family to take the service.
and I will remember fondly the times that you have got me to dress up as the dame in the Christmas nativities.
We laughed so much, we kept forgetting our lines. Remember when you held up that banner that said boo hiss, and you kept doing it at the wrong time, you know, and things like that.
St. Mark's well knows that life does change, but we do move on, and we do it in the knowledge that God is walking with us. I know that with God's grace, St. Mark's will continue as it has over the years, because it just always does. And we thank God. Amen. May his blessing be upon you all. Thank you.
We are St. Mark's. The St. Mark's you shaped, Deborah. We are forever in your debt. Thank you, Deborah, from all of us.
So thank you very much, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deborah.
Bye-bye, Deborah. Thank you.
Well, that is really quite overwhelming. I love it. Can I keep a copy of it? That was fantastic. Thank you so much. So many memories. I like the fact that Derek mentioned being the dame. And also, do you remember that time when Vice and Drew did the filming of Scrooge, of Christmas Carol, and Patrick was in the film, and then he came out live in the same, and he and Derek danced up and down. Can you imagine it? It was, if you weren't here, you missed a treat. It was fantastic. But I've made a few notes in which to respond. And there were so many people, so many memories, so many things that happened. that obviously I can't do them all, but I have sort of picked out just a couple of people. First of all, I'd like to mention Dave. What I should have said, first of all, is that every ministry has its successes and its failures. And I'm going to talk about some of mine. First of all was Dave. I never did get him to come along to a Lent group. Failed that miserably. But I'm casting him as the villain in every play and pantomime we did. And wasn't he good? He was brilliant. He was brilliant as Scrooge, as Herod, as all sorts of people. So thank you, Dave. That is one of my biggest successes. I never did convince Patrick that any song of any note or worth was written before about 1982. Never managed to convince him of that. But I did get him, and he had the grace to not grumble too much and play the songs and hymns that I chose. And in return, as success, I let him choose some of his hillbilly songs when he wanted to. So thank you, Patrick, for a brilliant working relationship. Mavis. I never did convince Mavis that incense is a good thing. She has never believed me, even though it's biblical. And we're going to I'm going to get my own back just a little bit. This is my last service. I am still the vicar, and we are having incense. And that's for Dave as well. I never did convince Mel not to watch the God Slot on TV, because I always reckoned it was bad for him. Never convinced him, but he did a little while ago admit, and he did on that video, admit that he'd become slightly more liberal. Now, isn't that a triumph? So, failures and successes, wherever there's what seems to be a failure, you can always find a success. So, there are loads more I could do, but really what I want to do is just talk a little bit about my thanks to you all and my love of you all. Now, when I was a little girl, I hated having plasters taken off. You know, when you scrape your knee and you have a plaster put on. And I used to hate having the plaster. And I used to pick it away a little bit more. And then my mum would get fed up and just rip it off. And that's how I feel today. All these past few months have been the plaster being slowly picked away. And today it's ripped off and it hurts. And I used to screech to my mum, and I would really like to screech now, but I won't, don't worry. But that's how it feels. All of you, every one of you, and many more in the wider community, are one of these plasters, and you're being pulled off today, and it is hurting. But thank you for your assurance that we'll all be together in various ways in the future. Now, not only has this been a wonderful place to be vicar, but it's been a lovely place to have friends. And when you've heard some of this before, but this has been a family church for David and me, a real family church. Jane and Adam were married here. As we saw on the video, Tom and Shona were married here. Rosalind was christened here, Robin was confirmed. My mum's funeral was here. And you were all here for all of those things. St. Mark's doesn't only mean a lot to me, it means a lot to our whole family, doesn't it? Because such momentous things have happened here, and you've all been here. So all the ups and downs of life, you've shown nothing but kindness, nothing but love. And we really do thank you today. Thank you for all the trouble you've gone to for this service. I know a lot of you have been working very hard. And as I say, I would like to thank all of you. Thank you, Mavis, for the hard work on putting this service together, and everybody else, Elizabeth for coming, Rob, who's been my right-hand man. And a special thank you to Chris Jakes, who has been so very patient, because the number of times I've got the service wrong, or changed it without telling him, or muddled it up. I don't know what he says in private to Jane. I can imagine, but thank you, Chris, for putting up with so much. But really, thank you, everybody. You've been fantastic, and it's been a blast. Thank you.